If you want to fundamentally destroy someone's soul in 2026, you don't cancel them on the internet.
Right.
You don't try to get some like performative hashtag trending or leak a bad DM. No.
Literally no.
If you have real terrifying power, you buy every single ticket to the most important night of their life just so you can sit in the dead center of a cavernous empty arena and watch them realize that their voice means literally nothing.
It is the most chilling, unhinged, psychopathic flex of wealth I have ever witnessed on television. I mean, I was watching through my fingers.
So bad.
And honestly, I sort of respect the commitment to the pettiness. It is giving supervillain. It is giving Lex Luthor with an endless 401k and a severe superiority complex.
Babes, we are rolling.
We are rolling.
Good morning, good evening, good day, babes. We love you, and babes, we are so glad to have you here with us tonight. Welcome back to the Snark side, where we roast, we review, and we completely spiral with a whole lot of side-eye.
The wine is officially on deck.
And yes, before you even say it, it is a Moscato. Don't look at me like that. I know what you're thinking.
I'm judging you.
But babes,
Yes.
It is another Thursday evening spiral, and Moscato feels emotionally safe to me right now, okay?
I need the sugar.
I need to romanticize the sweetness because the real world outside is entirely too bitter.
You act like it is a vintage pour from a French chateau. I literally watched you unscrew the cap on that $5 bottle right before we hit record.
It's twist off for convenience.
Sure. But honestly, as a fake sommelier for the evening, I will allow it. It actually pairs perfectly with the sheer delusion we are about to unpack today.
Thank you.
Because there is a very specific flavor profile to a Thursday night Moscato. It has like notes of I am already checked out of my Friday meetings.
Yes.
A heavy mouthfeel of I might text my ex, and a lingering finish of just pure weekend energy.
Exactly. We are entering the weekend early.
Mm-hmm.
We are pretending we are classy while actively spiraling on the couch.
Yeah.
I mean, I am immediately emotionally attached to this glass of wine. And since it is basically the weekend, you know what time it is. It is officially time for messy weekend horoscopes for the Smart Squad.
Yes. Consider these less of a spiritual guide and more of like a public safety warning, because the stars are screaming right now. They are telling me that someone listening is on the verge of a catastrophic social error.
Oh boy.
Let's start with the fire signs. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. This weekend, you are going to accidentally text a screenshot of a conversation to the exact person you are gossiping about in that very conversation.
Oh my God, no. Literally my worst nightmare. Just delete the app, throw the phone in the ocean, move to Europe.
It is written in the stars, babes. Double check your recipients. Okay, earth signs. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. You are going to flirt with someone who is so emotionally unavailable, they make a brick wall look like a licensed therapist.
Wow.
Stop trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed just because they have nice forearms.
I feel spiritually attacked by that one, honestly.
I was looking right at you when I read it.
Okay, rude. Moving on to air signs. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. You are going to spend entirely too much money on a dinner you don't even like.
Classic.
And then you're going to overshare your deepest, darkest childhood traumas to the Uber driver on the way home while slightly tipsy.
And honestly, they will give you 5 stars for the free entertainment.
Right. 5 stars, great tipper, a lot of baggage.
Finally, water signs. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. You are going ghost. You are going to mute every single group chat. You're going to romanticize the barista who remembers your coffee order. And somehow you will accidentally become the center of a drama you aren't even actively participating in.
That is so real. It is actually uncanny how accurate these are.
Yeah.
Keep yourself safe out there, babes. Because speaking of safety, we actually might be slightly delayed in posting our usual Sunday recap this weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Why? Because, babes, we are going camping.
Which is a decision I am already actively mourning. I am pre-grieving our sanity. I don't know why we agreed to this.
I am trying so hard to romanticize nature. I really am. I bought a new fleece. I literally made a Pinterest vision board of aesthetic campfires and drinking coffee out of those little tin enamel mugs while looking at a pine tree.
Right, but you are romanticizing a situation where we are voluntarily sleeping outdoors. Like, we don't have a lease.
I know.
Like, we don't literally pay rent for indoor heating. We are walking into incoming family chaos. There will be bugs, and the bugs will not just bite us, they will emotionally terrorize us.
So true.
And let's just talk about the lack of proper bathrooms.
Yeah.
I physically cannot.
The bathroom situation is my absolute biggest fear. I am so scared of the communal shower block.
It's disgusting.
I just know someone is going to ask me about my career trajectory while I'm trying to wash campfire smoke out of my hair in lukewarm, dribbling water.
My biggest fear is that family drama is going to erupt around the campfire after like 3 hard seltzers, and there will be nowhere to escape to because we are trapped in a literal forest. Who do you think is going to mentally break first out of the two of us?
Oh, me. 100% me. The second a mosquito gets near my ear, I am going to ask to be airlifted out by a helicopter. Like, is camping actually just a struggle disguised as bonding?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. It is a psychological experiment to see how much inconvenience a family can tolerate before they physically turn on each other. We already know this trip is about to be straight shenanigans and chaos.
Which is exactly why we pre-gamed our outdoor exposure today by going to the beach. And babes, we have beach birdwatching update for you.
We decided to give birdwatching another chance. Because we tried it last week and it was boring.
So boring.
Except this time, we didn't bring binoculars to look at actual seagulls. We brought wine, we sat on the sand, and we just aggressively people-watched.
We accidentally became professional people watchers in an art form.
Yeah.
You just sit there behind your sunglasses, completely silent, judging beach outfits and creating entire fictional storylines for strangers.
I felt like I was narrating a National Geographic documentary about rich people behavior. Like, you see a family unpack a luxury Yeti cooler that costs more than my car.
Oh yeah, the massive one.
And they proceed to argue intensely but very quietly about who forgot the organic sunscreen.
I get so emotionally invested in their storylines. There was this one couple right down near the water, and they were trying to take the perfect candid influencer shot.
Oh, them. That was painful.
The boyfriend was squatting, getting the angles, doing the absolute most, and she kept readjusting her hat. I decided right then and there that they were on the brink of a divorce, and this beach trip was a last-ditch effort to save the relationship via Instagram grid validation.
The delusion a beach provides is unmatched. You look at the ocean and suddenly you think you were in a luxury travel vlog or like an HBO drama.
Totally.
But I have to admit, this version of birdwatching is significantly better than looking at actual pigeons.
Far superior. But speaking of HBO dramas and the sheer delusion of wealth, babes, we have to talk about what we watched tonight. We fired up the penultimate episode of Hacks Season 5.
Yes, we did.
The episode is called The Garden, and I'm going to be totally honest with you. I went into this fully expecting to hate watch it.
Same, because penultimate episodes are notoriously messy.
Oh, wait.
They have to do so much heavy lifting. They have to set up the finale, tie up loose ends, and usually they just feel like a frantic checklist of plot points.
Right. I was ready to roll my eyes, sip my Moscato, and snark on the pacing. And instead, I ended up catching serious feelings.
It was so good.
I am ruined. I'm literally pacing my living room. I'm so ready to spiral and discuss this because this episode was an unhinged masterpiece of petty drama.
It really, really was. So let's set the stage for the Snark Squad in case you missed it. For the past 18 months in the Hacks universe, Deborah Vance has been under a strict, ironclad contractual gag order following her spectacular late-night television exit.
18 months.
18 months of forced silence.
Could you imagine me on a gag order for 18 months? I would literally implode. I would break out in full body hives.
You can't even go 18 minutes without updating the group chat on a minor inconvenience. Like, if they get your coffee wrong, I hear about it.
That is valid trauma. But Deborah survived it. And the minute that clock strikes midnight and the NDA expires, the show drops us right into the chaos. We get this incredible media blitz. She is everywhere. But the crown jewel of this comeback tour is that she has booked Madison Square Garden.
The absolute mountaintop.
And she goes on The Breakfast Club to promote it. I was screaming at the television when Charlemagne Ty God popped up.
Such a good cameo.
They introduce him as her close personal friend and racehorse co-owner. That is such a ridiculously specific, wealthy person flex. I just love the world building of this show.
Me too. Charlemagne frames MSG as the absolute pinnacle for a stand-up comedian, which it is. You don't get bigger than the Garden. And Deborah drops this wildly abrasive, classic Deborah line. She looks dead into the mic and said she's going to give the city the best 9/11 New York has ever had.
Which is horrible and hilarious.
So out of pocket.
It is so perfectly her. It establishes immediately that 18 months in the wilderness did not soften her edges one bit. She is sharper, and she is treating this MSG show like a literal war.
Yeah, and we get this preparation montage that honestly gave me secondhand anxiety.
Oh my God, the ice.
She isn't just running lines, she is enduring ice water facials. She is screaming through vocal coaching. She is doing frantic, sweating cardio on the treadmill. She has starved herself of solid food. Her hotel window is entirely blocked out by a chaotic web of Post-it notes for her set list.
Compare that to me prepping for a date. I put on a cheat mask, maybe brush my teeth, and call it a day. She is winding herself up so tightly, treating her body like a machine that she has to actively punish in order to perform perfectly.
And it builds this incredible tension. You can feel the desperation radiating off the screen. She needs this to go perfectly to prove that the establishment couldn't bury her.
Which is exactly why the rug pull is so devastating. We have to talk about the twist, because I am still recovering emotionally.
Let's do it.
Okay, so she arrives at Madison Square Garden. She is wearing this stunning vintage white Bob Mackie, Carol Burnett-style jumpsuit. It is serving pure glamour, pure revenge dressing. She walks through the backstage corridors, ready to conquer the world. But her team looks confused. There is no noise. There is no foot traffic in the concourse at all.
The silence is literally deafening.
She walks out onto the stage of Madison Square Garden, a venue that holds 20,000 people. And it is completely, utterly empty. Every single velvet seat is bare, except for one. Sitting in the middle of this cavernous arena, slow clapping like a true cinematic villain, is Bob Lipka.
Played by Tony Goldwyn, who, by the way, has aged like a fine, sinister wine.
How dare he be that hot while being that evil? It's confusing for me. Bob Lipka bought out the entire arena, every single ticket.
When this happened, my jaw unhinged. I immediately went to Twitter and Reddit, and everyone was making the exact same connection. It is the ultimate 50 Cent and Ja Rule move.
Okay, wait, break that down for the babes who might not know the lore, because this is reality TV level pettiness happening in real life.
Okay, so in 2018, 50 Cent and Ja Rule had this massive decades-long beef. And to humiliate Ja Rule, 50 Cent literally bought 200 front-row tickets to Ja Rule's concert on Groupon.
Groupon. I'm crying.
Just so the front sections would be completely empty while he performed, he bought them just to leave them empty. It is a legendary level of hateration.
I live for that kind of dedication to a grudge. But Bob Lipka didn't just buy the front row. He bought the entire arena with a billionaire's budget. And he didn't just do it to be a troll. He did it to trap her.
Exactly. He sits there in the empty arena and tells her that the last 18 months have been terrible for him. His board lost trust, his bonus was slashed. He wants to guarantee she never speaks about him or what happened at the network ever again. So he bought out the show, ruined her comeback, and offers her a massive multi-million-dollar payout on one condition.
The NDA.
She signs a permanent, lifetime non-disclosure agreement.
Okay, I have to pause here. I have to argue this because I was screaming at my TV. Does this actually make sense to you? Because I honestly struggled to buy the Bob Lipka twist logistically.
Really?
Like a billionaire sneaking into an empty arena. How do you buy 20,000 tickets without Ticketmaster flagging it as a bot farm? Doesn't this feel a little bit like a cartoon villain twirling his mustache?
Okay, I see what you're saying. If you look at it strictly as an event planning logistical exercise, sure, it strains credulity. Ticketmaster would definitely cancel those orders. But you have to look at the emotional psychology of a billionaire.
Okay, it's fine.
Bob Lipka represents the ultimate patriarchal institution. He represents the system that has always told women like Deborah when to speak and when to shut up. He doesn't just want the NDA signed by a lawyer in a boring boardroom. He needs to physically see her broken. He needs to witness her humiliation. It's about power and control. He wants her to look around an empty room and realize that his wallet is bigger than her legacy.
Ugh, that makes me sick. You're right, it is about the emotional dominance. But he deeply underestimates her. Because Deborah Vance doesn't break. She stares him down, this man who holds literally all the cards, and she delivers the line of the season.
Best line.
She looks at his contract, looks at his smug face, and says, "Fuck your NDA, and fuck you."
I cheered. I literally raised my glass of Moscato to the television and yelled.
It was everything. But while it is a triumphant character moment, they are now completely screwed. The venue is dark. Her big comeback is dead in the water. She storms back to her dressing room. And this is where we get the most chaotic, unhinged team response.
The war room scene is pure comedy gold. You have her entire team spiraling out of control.
Ava is pacing the room, screaming into her phone, "Siri, how do I sink a super yacht?" Noai.
That was
I
amazing.
felt that in my soul. When I am trying to plot a minor revenge on someone who wronged me, I don't want ChatGPT giving me ethical guidelines. I want raw, old-school Google results on how to ruin a life.
And then Kayla. Sweet, deranged Kayla wants to go full Luigi on Bob Lipka.
Going full Luigi, like she's going to hit him with a green shell on Rainbow Road. The loyalty this team has for Deborah right now is so wild. If you think back to earlier seasons, her staff would have just packed their bags and started looking for new jobs on LinkedIn. Now they are ready to commit actual felonies for her.
But Deborah stops the spiral. She doesn't want revenge. She wants an audience. And this is where the delusion kicks into high gear. Because her pivot plan is to do a totally stripped-down, free show in Central Park that very same weekend.
Which is clinically insane. You cannot just throw a massive concert in Central Park with 3 days' notice. Her manager, Randy, has this monologue that I honestly want tattooed on my body.
It was so good.
She just stares in the middle distance and goes, God, I love this business. It's 90% the most delusional, lazy people you've ever seen in your life, and 10% the most delusional workaholics, and let's fucking go.
It is the battle cry of the deeply stressed professional.
Yeah.
But to pull this off, they need infrastructure, they need a stage, and Biggs, when this next character walked on screen, I shrieked.
Laurie Metcalf.
The absolute legend returns as Alice, better known as Weed, the utterly chaotic, terrifying tour manager from season 2.
I gasped. I really didn't think we would ever see her again. She is in Central Park running the stage for a Fall Out Boy concert, and she looks incredible. She has this clipboard, this headset, this intense, slightly manic energy.
And what I loved about her return wasn't just the cameo factor, it was the philosophy she brings to the episode. When Deborah and Ava meet her in the park, Weed drops this heavy truth. She reveals that Deborah firing her in the middle of nowhere back in season 2 was the best thing that ever happened to her.
Even though she immediately admits that getting fired caused her to have a massive relapse.
Right, she relapsed hard. But her perspective on it is so fascinating. She basically says, you gotta crash and burn before you can rise.
Yeah.
The relapse broke her down to 0, which forced her to build a stronger, more enduring recovery. She credits her current success, like running this huge venue, entirely to Deborah pushing her over the edge.
That really shook me, because it's not just about Weed. It's the thesis statement for Deborah's entire life.
It's exact.
Think about it. Deborah had to get fired from her Vegas residency by Marty. She had to bomb in Middle America. She had to lose her late-night show. She had to get humiliated at MSG. She constantly crashes and burns, and that friction is the only thing that creates the spark for her to rise higher.
It is profound.
Yeah.
All the profound realizations in the world don't matter if you can't get a permit from the New York City Parks Department.
Oh my God, the bureaucracy. This was the most accurate depiction of local government I have ever seen on TV.
Right.
They go to the permit office, and they are facing off against Anastasia, played by Yamaneika Saunders, who is just a comedic genius.
Anyone who has ever dealt with city permitting knows that the person behind that desk wields more power than the President of the United States. You need a permit that usually takes 30 days, and you need it in 4 hours. Good luck.
Jimmy tries to turn on the agent charm. He gives this wildly inappropriate, dramatic monologue. He is pacing the waiting room, and he literally quotes Desmond Tutu to try and secure a park permit for a stand-up comedy show.
And Anastasia does not even blink. She is totally dead-eyed. She could not care less about Desmond Tutu or Deborah Vance.
But then we get the twist of the century. Jimmy stops talking and hears audio playing from Anastasia's headphones on her desk. It's the unmistakable sound of sword clashing and chakram throwing. It is the Xeno Warrior Princess Rewatch podcast that Jimmy and Kayla produce.
Anastasia is a hardcore Xenite.
Xenites unite. I was screaming. The fact that their ridiculous side hustle podcast is the skeleton key that unlocks the New York City government is peak hacks writing.
So they get the permit, but now they need people. They need 30,000 people to show up to a lawn in New York with almost zero notice. And what follows is a masterclass in cashing in every single favor you have ever earned.
The cameo montage was everything. We get Nico Hayes, the rock star Deborah hooked up with earlier in the season. He hops on Instagram Live looking disheveled and gorgeous, telling his millions of fans to go to the park because, quote, silencing women is never okay.
Hilarious. And we get Trisha Paytas doing a literal lobster mukbang, cracking crab legs while telling her subscribers to go to Central Park.
So unhinged.
The internet chaos they weaponize is so smart because Bob Lipka controls the corporate world, but he cannot control the algorithmic chaos of Trisha Paytas eating seafood.
But the ultimate PR move, the thing that proves Deborah has actually grown as a human being, is her appearance on The View.
Yes, she has to swallow her pride and publicly end her decades-long feud with Joy Behar to get the daytime TV demographic to show up.
And the apology she gives is a masterclass in passive-aggressive sincerity. It is an art form. I need to dissect this apology.
Go for it.
She looks Joy Behar dead in the eye on live television and says, "You would know the difference between a Margot and a Merlot if I smashed it over your head." And I think toasting with a glass of iced tea is just pure class.
And Joy just takes a beat and goes, "Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I got you put on the terrorist watch list."
The fact that they casually reveal Joy Behar, put Deborah Vance on the no-fly list. I cannot. But think about what this signifies. Seasons 1 and 2, Deborah would rather die than apologize to Joy Behar. She was an island. She burned every bridge she ever crossed. Now she's utilizing her chosen family, her weird internet connections, and even her oldest enemies to build something new.
She is learning how to play the game without losing her soul. But while Deborah is building her coalition, we have to talk about the two massive subplots happening simultaneously because they are giving me so much anxiety. Let's talk about Ava.
Ava is in Los Angeles, trying to pitch her reboot of a show called Who's Making Dinner, and she pitches it to this network executive named Jessica.
Jessica, who's 36 years old and continuously refers to the 30-year-old Ava as your generation. The microaggressions of Hollywood ageism are so sharp here.
Ava pitches this generic, sanitized Gen Z roommate comedy. She's talking about economic hardship and young people struggling to pay rent, and Jessica just shoots it down. She says it lacks a personal touch, it feels fake.
Because it is fake. Ava hasn't lived like a normal 20-something in years. She doesn't know what it's like to split a grocery bill with 3 roommates in a cramped apartment. She lives in luxury hotels. She travels on a tour bus. She lives in a sprawling Vegas mansion. She is entirely disconnected from her own peers.
Which is proven brilliantly in the next scene when she gets into a screaming match with Deborah in the hotel room. It is the great debate over QR codes.
I was deeply triggered by this scene.
Same, because Deborah wants to order a BLT, and she wants to pick up the physical landline phone in the hotel room, speak to a human, and order it. And Ava is aggressively telling her to just scan the QR code on the desk.
I am side-eyeing Ava so hard here because QR code menus are the devil's work. I don't want to open a PDF on my phone that takes 5 minutes to load just to see if you have fries. Deborah is right.
Thank you. And they are bickering about Ava plundering the minibar for tiny bottles of gin. It is this rapid-fire, insanely specific generational clash. And as they are fighting, you see the light bulb go off in Ava's head.
She realizes she is pitching the wrong show. She doesn't need to write about Gen Z roommates. She needs to write about what she actually knows.
She gets Jessica back on a Zoom call and completely repitches the concept. She pitches a show about 2 incredibly headstrong women from totally different generations who are trapped together. They clash on politics, they fight about etiquette, they argue over technology and fashion. But underneath all the friction, they fundamentally change how the other person sees the world, and they force each other to be better.
It is literally just the plot of Hacks. She is pitching her own life with Deborah.
Okay, wait, stop right there. I have to argue this point, because we have been debating this in the Snark side group chat all day.
Uh-oh.
Is Ava actually growing up and finding her own artistic voice? Or is she just a parasite?
The parasite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because to me, it feels like she is just monetizing Deborah's life for her own gain. She can't come up with an original idea, so she just packages her boss's trauma and sells it to a network. That feels kind of gross to me.
I totally hear that, and I think that's a valid read if you look at Season 1 Ava. Season 1 Ava would absolutely sell Deborah out for a quick check. I mean, she did with the email. But I don't think that's what is happening here. I don't think she's a parasite. I think this is artistic synthesis.
Make it make sense, because I'm mad at her.
Think about it. Writers write what they know. Ava is realizing that her strongest, most authentic creative voice isn't some performative Gen Z angst. It is rooted in the most significant, transformative relationship of her entire life. She isn't just telling Deborah's story, she's telling their story. She is accepting that Deborah has shaped her worldview, and she's finally confident enough to carry that influence forward without just living in Deborah's shadow. And honestly, the pitch works. Jessica greenlights the pilot. Ava is officially stepping into her own spotlight.
Okay, fine. I see your point. She is metabolizing the relationship into art, but it still makes me nervous for the finale.
We should definitely be nervous. But before we get to the finale theories, we have to talk about my favorite character, sweet, pot lollipop-sucking Marty.
Marty, the CEO of the Palmetto Casino, the love of Deborah's life, arguably, Babes, they fired him.
They didn't just fire him, they fired him over the phone.
The absolute disrespect. He gets bought out by these young tech bro billionaires, the dorky computer kids, as he calls them, and he is complaining to Deborah about how much he hates computers and how ageism is ruining the casino business.
The poetic justice of this storyline is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. It is a perfect full-circle narrative. Let's rewind to the very first episode of the entire series. What is the inciting incident? Marty pushes Deborah out of her prime weekend dates at the Palmetto.
Because he wants to bring in younger, more relevant acts to appeal to a younger demographic. He pushes her out because she is too old for the new vision.
And now, 5 years later, he is the victim of the exact same phenomenon. He is being discarded by a younger, tech-focused generation who views him as an obsolete relic. He is experiencing the exact pain he inflicted on her.
It is so satisfying. But what is even more satisfying is Deborah's reaction. Because if this was season 1, Deborah would have laughed in his face. She would have gloated. She would have bought a billboard across from his house just to mock him.
She would have absolutely destroyed him emotionally.
But she doesn't. She looks at him with genuine sympathy. She says, "Welcome to the club. You're 40 years behind, but we're happy to have you." And then she offers him a lifeline. She literally offers him a job running the casino floor at her newly acquired venue, the Diva.
It's beautiful because they realize they are both analog survivors. They are flesh and blood in a business that increasingly wants to replace people with algorithms and data points. They need each other to survive the New World Order.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the climax of the episode, the thematic victory, the Central Park show.
The cinematography in this sequence is breathtaking. We get these sweeping drone aerial shots of the Great Lawn in Central Park. And it is not just a crowd, it is a sea of humanity.
30,000 people showed up. A record for a stand-up comedy show in the park.
Yeah.
I am not ashamed to admit I got choked up when they showed the wide shot.
Because of what it represents. Deborah walks out onto the stage. She's wearing that vintage white Bob Mackie outfit that she originally planned to wear at Madison Square Garden. And her first words to this massive, roaring crowd. She doesn't launch into a joke. She opens with a land acknowledgement.
We are on stolen land, but we've come to the right place. It is so deeply funny and so perfectly Deborah Vance just casually dropped that in. But let's dig into the reality of this pivot. Why does this actually matter?
Because it completely castrates Bob Lipka's power. Throughout this entire season, Madison Square Garden was the trophy. It represented institutional approval, it represented the comedy establishment, prestige, history, and a highly controlled, velvet-roped environment. It was the thing she was told she needed to conquer to be legitimate.
Right, it's the corporate definition of success.
Exactly. But Central Park represents the exact opposite. It represents the public, it represents chaos and freedom, and the actual people of New York City. By taking the show to the park, Deborah proves a massive point that Bob Lipka cannot compute. He can use his billions to buy a building, he can buy out a ticketing system, he can force silence in a boardroom, but he cannot buy the city's appetite for her voice. He cannot afford the sky.
Oh my God, I have chills. He cannot afford the sky. Put that on a t-shirt right now. She transcends the need for the establishment's approval entirely. She doesn't need his golden cage. She redefines what a comeback actually is. It is the perfect professional victory.
It really is.
B-U-T. And there is a very large but here. While Deborah is having this triumphant moment on screen, if you go online and look at the Snark squad, the Reddit threads, the group chats, everyone is terrified. The fans are spiraling into absolute panic.
Because a perfect victory in a penultimate episode is never just a victory, it is a setup.
Yes. The deathbreath theories are taking over the internet. People are convinced that this episode is actively setting up a devastating tragedy for the series finale. And babes, the clues are honestly very compelling. I need to lay out the evidence for you.
Present the case, counselor.
Exhibit A, the dialogue. Right before Deborah goes on stage, Ava looks out at the record-breaking 30,000-person crowd, and she turns to Deborah and literally says, "It's a great lead for an obituary."
You do not put the word obituary in the script of the episode before the finale unless you are intentionally laying track. The writers of this show are too meticulous for throwaway lines.
Exactly. Exhibit B, the physical toll. Remember that grueling prep montage we talked about? We saw Deborah pushing her body to the absolute physical breaking point with intense cardio and stress. For a woman her age, that is a massive strain on the heart.
True. Exhibit C, the unresolved plot threads. Let's not forget the lingering mystery from earlier this season. Deborah had a secret, unpublicized doctor's appointment in Beverly Hills. We never found out what those test results were. Why introduce a secret doctor visit if it doesn't pay off?
And Exhibit D, the psychic. A few episodes ago, a psychic had a vision of Deborah and told her she was looking like an angel. Fans are connecting all these dots and collectively concluding that Deborah Vance is going to drop dead in the series finale.
There is also a structural argument here. When characters in a dark comedy reach a state of perfect harmony, disaster is almost always waiting in the wings. Right now, Ava and Deborah are not fighting. They are completely supportive, deeply connected, and creatively aligned. In the language of television, that peace is usually the calm before the storm.
So I have to ask you, and I want the babes listening to think about this too. Would killing off Deborah Vance ruin the show? Like, would it destroy the rewatchability of this hilarious comedy? Or would a tragic death elevate Hacks to the untouchable prestige drama tier like a Succession or a Sopranos?
It's a really delicate balance. I personally think a literal death might push it too far into bleak misery porn territory. This show is fundamentally about resilience, about bouncing back from failure. Killing her feels too permanent, too dark. However, I think a severe health scare, like a stroke or a heart attack that forces her to permanently leave the stage, would fit the narrative perfectly.
Why? That's still so depressing.
Because look at Ava's storyline. Ava's pilot just got greenlit. Her show's about their relationship. If Deborah has a health crisis that ends her performing career, she has to step down. And Ava steps up to fulfill her new role as the storyteller. Ava literally becomes the custodian of Deborah's legacy. It's a passing of the baton. It's not just tragic for shock value, it's narrative completion.
Okay, that makes me feel slightly better than her just dying on stage,
Mhm.
but it still stresses me out. Which brings us to the segment portion of the evening. Babes, we have some Snark side awards and debates to get through based on this episode. Let's start with segment 1, most delusional character. Who in this episode is living in the absolute biggest fantasy?
I mean, there is stiff competition. You have Bob Lipka thinking he can control a woman with money. You have Ava thinking she understands the struggles of the working class youth. But my vote for most delusional has to go to Jessica, the 36-year-old network executive.
Oh, truly.
She sits on that Zoom call wearing a beige cashmere sweater, drinking a green juice, and acts like she is the voice of a generation. She refers to Ada as your generation, like there's a massive cultural gulf between 30 and 36. The delusion that she is somehow this elder stateswoman of culture while greenlighting generic sitcoms is so funny to me. She is the epitome of corporate Hollywood brain rot.
That is a very solid choice, but I'm going to give my most delusional award to Kayla.
Kayla.
Yes, because wanting to handle a billionaire by going full Luigi on him is the most unhinged, divorced from reality problem solving I have ever heard. And she meant it. She genuinely thought she could handle a corporate titan with Mario Kart logic. God bless her.
Moving on to segment 2. Could we survive show business? Watching Deborah endure the ice baths, the public humiliation, the sheer physical exhaustion. Danielle, if we got famous tomorrow, how long would we survive?
I would last exactly 4 hours.
Generous.
The first time a teenager on Twitter criticized my outfit, I would release a tearful Notes app apology and retire to a farm. I do not have the emotional fortitude for people to perceive me on a mass scale.
I would become a villain immediately. I would lean into the snark so hard that I would alienate everyone, burn every bridge, and end up exactly like season 1 Deborah Vance, living alone in a mansion, throwing antique plates at the wall. We are simply not built for this psychological warfare of fame.
Which transitions perfectly into segment 3, camping versus luxury. Since we are heading into the woods this weekend and we just watched Deborah Vance command a stage in vintage Bob Mackie, are we truly capable of surviving outdoors? Next question.
Come on, we can start a fire, probably, if we have a lighter. And lots of newspaper. We can barely survive a minor inconvenience at Starbucks. Deborah Vance proved tonight that true power is being able to command 30,000 people in a park while wearing white and not getting a single grass stain on it. That is luxury. Me sleeping in a sleeping bag smelling like insect repellent is an insult to my ancestors who fought for indoor plumbing. I am going to complain the entire time.
I know you will, and I will try to meditate through it. Finally, segment 4, Beach People Watching Awards. Based on our bird-watching excursion today, we have some hardware to hand out.
The award for most likely to be having a secret affair goes to the woman in the massive floppy hat and giant sunglasses who spent 45 minutes intensely whispering into her AirPods while pacing the shoreline, aggressively ignoring her golden retriever.
She was definitely coordinating a wire transfer or ending a marriage. My award for main character syndrome goes to the guy who brought a full acoustic guitar to the beach and proceeded to aggressively strum Wonderwall while making eye contact with every single woman who walked past his towel.
The audacity. We need a Bob Lipka to buy out all the sand around him so he has to play to an empty beach.
Exactly. See, everything connects back to the pettiness. Babes, this episode of Hacks was a masterclass in how to stick a TV landing without relying on cheap shot value. It gave us the drama, the petty revenge, the character growth, and the highest stakes possible.
It respects the audience's investment, which is super rare these days.
It really is. Thank you so much to the Snark Squad for hanging out with us tonight and spiraling over Moscato. We want to hear from you in the comments. What is your most chaotic family camping story? Let us know if you think bird watching is secretly just people watching. Tell us which of those messy weekend horoscopes felt a little too accurate for your life right now. And seriously, tell us if you think you could survive camping emotionally, because I need tips.
And leave us with one final thought. If Ava's new television show gets greenlit and becomes a massive hit, will Ava suddenly find herself in the exact same position of power and potential corruption that Deborah Vance occupied in season 1? Has the torch been passed, or it's just the curse?
Ooh, I love that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a deep dive. Good luck to us in the woods this weekend. Stay messy, stay delusional, and we will see you on the Snark side.